My daughter banned me from vacation. My response shocked her instantly. I had my luggage packed and was just about ready to head out with my daughter for our long-awaited vacation when my phone buzzed. A message lit up on the screen, and within seconds, everything changed. It said I wouldn't be joining them on their trip to Italy. My son-in-law had decided he wanted it to be a family-only vacation. They ended up taking his parents instead, leaving me behind. All this right after I had paid for their brand new house. So, I did the only thing that made sense. I stopped all the mortgage payments and put the house up for sale. But what happened when they came back from their trip? You'll want to hear that part. Before we continue, please subscribe to stay updated on our latest stories. I remember the moment it all started. I was in my bedroom, folding my favorite travel shirt. Soft blue cotton, perfectly pressed. I could already picture myself wearing it at that little restaurant Celeste had found near the Vatican. My suitcase was spread open on the bed, half-packed with carefully chosen outfits. The weather forecast said Rome would be clear and sunny, perfect for the walking tours I'd researched and printed, neatly tucked into my carry-on. I was humming along to an old Frank Sinatra tune, trying to choose between my brown leather shoes and my comfortable walking sneakers. The plane tickets to Leonardo da Vinci Airport sat on my nightstand beside my passport, both crisp and ready to go. Only 4 hours until takeoff. That familiar excitement was building in my chest, that mix of nerves and anticipation before every big trip. Then my phone buzzed again. Celeste's name appeared on the screen. I smiled, assuming she was calling about something small, maybe a flight detail or a meeting point at the airport. But when I opened the message, my whole body went cold. The text said I wouldn't be coming. Her husband had decided this trip would be just for family. I stared at those words once, twice, 3 times, as if reading them again might somehow make them mean something different. Just family members only. But I was her family. I was her father. I'd planned this entire trip. I bought the tickets. I spent late nights researching restaurants and tours, building our schedule piece by piece. And yet, I wasn't considered family. I sat down on the edge of my bed, the open suitcase beside me. My hands were shaking slightly as I typed the only thing I could think to say. Okay, that was it. Just one word. The disappointment settled into my chest like a heavy stone. All around me were the little reminders of a trip that would never happen. Travel-sized shampoos and toothpaste lined up neatly on my dresser, guidebooks marked with sticky notes, and the brand-new camera still sealed in its box. Slowly, I closed the suitcase. Each click of the clasps echoed through the quiet room like the sound of something ending. Then I called the airline. The woman who answered was polite, her tone gentle as she helped me cancel the reservation. "I'm really sorry your plans changed, Mr. Brennan," she said. And for a moment, I wondered if she could hear the sadness in my voice. After I hung up, I sat in the living room, staring at the brochures scattered across the coffee table. Glossy pictures of Rome, places I'd dreamed of visiting with my daughter. The house felt emptier than usual. Even the silence seemed louder, broken only by the distant barking of Mrs. Holloway's dog. I picked up one of the brochures, a pamphlet on Roman architecture, and set it aside. A small, meaningless gesture, maybe, but it was the only thing I could do as I began to understand what had really happened. I hadn't just been left behind from a vacation. I had been carefully, deliberately excluded. Evenings settled in, wrapping the house in the same quiet emptiness that had haunted it all day. I'd been moving through the hours like a ghost, slow, unfocused, even leaving my dinner dishes piled in the sink, something I never did. That packed suitcase still sat by the bedroom door, a silent reminder of the plans that would never happen. The television murmured in the background, the evening news flickering across the room, but none of it registered. I kept picking up my phone for no reason, scrolling aimlessly through social media just to fill the silence. Maybe distraction would dull the ache. Facebook was the usual stream of noise. Mrs. Fairbanks posting pictures of her cat, a few recipe shares from my book club, political rants I didn't have the energy to read. The familiar blue glow of the screen was oddly comforting against the growing darkness in my living room. Then I saw it. Darian's parents, standing in front of the Colosseum, smiling like tourists who'd found the perfect photo spot. The caption read, Beginning of the best family vacation ever. My thumb froze mid-scroll. Maybe it was an old photo, I told myself. Maybe they'd gone somewhere else. But a cold feeling crept into my chest as I tapped their profile. More photos. Same day, same city. And this time, there were 4 faces. Darienne's parents. Darienne. And Celeste, my daughter. They were seated in an outdoor cafe near the Trevi fountain, wine glasses sparkling in the sun. The caption beneath the photo read, "So grateful for family time in the eternal city." My stomach dropped. I counted the faces again, 1, 2, 3, 4, but not 5. That word family burned through my mind like a hot iron. I set the phone down, their smiling faces still glowing on the screen, mocking me from the coffee table. Through the kitchen window, I could see the soft yellow lights of my neighbor's house. Families together, sharing dinner, laughter, warmth. And I stood there, alone, feeling the weight of betrayal hit like waves against a cliff, each one harder than the last. I picked up my phone again, hoping maybe I'd misunderstood, maybe I'd see something different this time. But no, the timestamps were fresh. The photos were real. They were enjoying the trip I'd planned, the vacation I'd built for them, without me. I caught my reflection in the window, pale, tired, eyes ringed with dark circles. Behind me, their photos still glowed on the screen. My reflection and their joy merged in the glass. A cruel contrast between the man left behind and the family who'd moved on without him. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their smiling faces, the wine, the Roman sunlight I was supposed to share with them. When morning came, dull and gray, I knew I needed answers. My hands trembled slightly as I sipped my coffee at the kitchen table, rehearsing what I'd say. With the time difference, it was already afternoon in Rome, the perfect time to call. I took a deep breath and dialed Celeste's number. The international ringtone sounded distant and expensive, each tone stretching the space between us. After 4 rings, she answered, cheerful, bright. "Hey, Dad." Behind her voice, I could hear the noise of the streets, traffic, laughter, the sound of a vacation in full swing. "I need to understand something," I said, keeping my tone steady. "What's that?" she replied lightly, distracted, probably looking at some souvenir or cafe menu. "I saw the pictures on Facebook," I said. "Darienne's parents are there with you." The pause that followed told me everything. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. "Dad, we can talk about this when I get back. We can explain everything. You told me it was just for family members only," I said quietly. "So what does that make me?" Her voice turned cold. "Listen, Darienne said you can be too much to handle. He didn't want you ruining the trip." Those words hit like a punch. Too much to handle. Ruining their vacation. "I'm the one who planned this whole trip," I said, my voice cracking. "I bought the tickets. I paid for everything." "Darienne's parents paid for themselves," she said sharply. "They don't expect us to look after them all the time." All the time? The accusation stung. "I've always helped you," I said softly. "When that's something you decided to do," she snapped back. "We never asked you to make us feel guilty for it." I could hear Darienne laughing in the background, carefree, untouched by the conversation. That sound made my jaw tighten. "To be honest with you, Dad," she continued, her tone hard now, "Darienne was right. You need too much attention." My phone felt heavy in my hand. "I see," I said quietly. "We'll talk when you're back." "Good," she replied. I ended the call without saying goodbye. The words "you need too much attention" echoed in my head like a cruel refrain. I found myself walking to my office, a place filled with the evidence of a lifetime of love. Photos lined every wall. Celeste learning to ride her bike, her college graduation, her wedding day, the day I walked her down the aisle with tears in my eyes. My fists slowly tightened. Every photo suddenly looked different, each one telling a story I hadn't seen before. There was the wedding, $42,000 I'd paid to make her dream day perfect. Her college photo, I cleared her student loans when Darienne couldn't find work. The mortgage papers on my desk, co-signed because the bank wouldn't trust them alone. Christmas mornings, birthdays, gifts, all funded by me. I'd spent years giving and mistook being useful for being loved. I opened my desk drawer, pulling out bank statements and receipts. $95,000 from my retirement for their down payment, car payments, credit cards, even my vacation fund, all poured into their comfort. But it wasn't just money. It was time. The fishing trip with old friends I'd canceled to babysit the kids. The dinner invitation I'd turned down because Celeste needed help moving. The trips I never took while funding theirs instead. It all came rushing back. Every moment I'd quietly traded away for their happiness. And all they saw was someone who needed too much attention. My hand shook as I turned each family photo face down. The sound of the frames hitting the desk felt final, like closing a chapter one should have ended long ago. I glanced at the mirror on the wall, and for the first time didn't see a father. I saw a man who'd been used. A man who mistook generosity for love and got manipulation in return. I sat at my desk, staring at my open laptop. My bank account pulled up, their names still listed with access. My finger hovered over the trackpad, one click away from changing everything. But I didn't. Not yet. Some actions deserve planning, not impulse. The room was silent except for my heartbeat. Then my phone buzzed, a banking app notification. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. Account alert, transaction processed. Amount, $892. Location, Il Convivio Restaurant, Rome, Italy. Timestamp, 3 hours ago. Their lunchtime. I stared at the screen, and for the first time in years, something inside me began to harden. Celeste had used my authorized user card, the same emergency access I'd given her years ago when she was still building credit. The irony burned deep. They'd excluded me from their family vacation, yet were using my money for fancy Roman meals. I scrolled through my banking app, each transaction tightening my chest. Hotel stays, boutique purchases, museum tickets, all charged to my card. The same card her husband's parents supposedly didn't need. I paced my office, phone clutched tightly. Every framed family photo looked different now, not as memories, but as evidence. Then the thought formed, sharp and clear, this is my chance. I opened the card management section. Celeste's name sat there in bold black letters. Years of financial access, granted from love that had turned into manipulation. Another ping came through. 127 Elegant Style, Rome. She was shopping while I sat here, processing their betrayal. That decided it. My finger hovered over remove user. Years of being supportive battled with the sudden clarity that support and exploitation were not the same thing. A confirmation message appeared. Are you sure? This action cannot be undone. I selected yes. Authorized user access revoked. A strange calm washed over me. The first real sense of control I'd felt in years. It was foreign but deeply satisfying. I set the phone down and looked at my reflection in the dark screen. For the first time in days, I smiled. Then I want to make coffee. The sound of the coffee maker gurgling, the distant hum of my neighbor's lawn mower, ordinary life continuing, while my quiet revolution had just begun. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, actually enjoying my coffee for the first time in days. The newspaper lay spread open before me when my phone began to ring aggressively. An international number. 9 a.m. here, 4 p.m. in Rome. I let it ring twice before answering, no longer eager to please. Good morning, Celeste, I said evenly. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Dad, what did you do to the card? Straight to the point. No greetings, no concern, just entitlement. I remove your account access, I said. Don't give me that, she snapped. I tried paying for lunch, and it was declined, in front of Darian's parents. The waiter came back 4 times. It was humiliating. That must have been embarrassing, I said, sipping my coffee calmly. Embarrassing? It was mortifying. You can't do that. I need that card. For what? I asked quietly. I thought you didn't need me taking care of you constantly. That's completely different, she said, her voice rising with every word. Is it? Silence. Then muffled voices in the background, Darian probably coaching her. When she came back, her tone dripped with venom. You fix this immediately, or you'll face consequences. I raised an eyebrow. What consequences? Darian and I have been talking, she said coldly. When we get back, we're researching care facilities. My mug stopped halfway to my mouth. Care facilities? You're aging, Dad. You clearly can't manage your money responsibly. Her words were like a knife, twisted with cruelty. We'll sell your house to cover the costs. You don't need all that space anyway. I heard Darian's voice behind her. Tell him it's for his benefit. Darian says it's for your benefit, she repeated smugly. I sat in silence, letting the weight of her words settle. They wanted to put me in a home and sell the house I'd worked my entire life for, all because I'd stopped funding their vacation. Dad, are you there? She snapped. I heard everything, I said calmly. Good. So you'll handle it. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. Enjoy your family vacation. Dad, don't you dare. I ended the call and placed the phone face down. My hands were steady as I took another sip of coffee, staring out at my well-kept yard. This house I'd owned for 28 years, fully paid off in my name alone. The house they thought they could sell to make me disappear. I set my mug down, a new resolve forming. It was time to handle business. In my office, I pulled open the filing cabinet and laid out my documents. But it wasn't my deed I was studying. It was the second property, Celeste and Darian's house on Oak Avenue. I'd purchased it for them 3 years ago, and the title? Still in my name. I remembered that conversation clearly. Just for mortgage approval, sweetie. We'll switch it to our names once everything's finalized. That was 3 years ago. They've been too busy ever since. I found Kai Nakamura's business card in the drawer, the realtor who'd sold me both properties. Reliable, discreet. Exactly the kind of man I needed now. The drive to his office took me through the quiet streets of Cedar Falls. Mrs. Patterson waved from her garden as I backed out, her smile a reminder of how ordinary life looked, even as mine was changing forever. 20 minutes later, I parked outside Nakamura Properties, a beautifully restored Victorian that reflected Kai's attention to detail. He looked up from his computer, eyes lighting up. Fletcher, great to see you. How's retirement treating you? I need to sell the Oak Avenue property, I said without hesitation. He paused. The one you bought for Celeste? Yes. Is everything all right? Everything's fine, I said evenly. I just need it sold quickly. Kai nodded, his professional instincts kicking in. The market's strong right now. A house like that could go for around $215, maybe $220. I smiled slightly. I paid $148 3 years ago. That'll do. How soon do you need it listed? ASAP. Price it to sell. He began pulling up forms, his movements precise and confident. We'll need photos, maybe some light staging. Can Celeste coordinate access? She's in Italy, I said. I have the keys. His eyebrows lifted for a second, but he didn't ask questions. That's what I liked about him. We discussed pricing, commission, and closing schedules. I signed a listing agreement, my signature bold, final, and steady. I'll start marketing right away, Kai said. In this market, we might have offers within days. Perfect. We shook hands, and I appreciated how he didn't pry. Some things didn't need explaining. Driving home, classical music played softly through the radio. The streets of Cedar Falls looked different, sharper, clearer, as if the world had finally come back into focus. At a red light, a young family crossed in front of me, the father lifting his toddler high, while the mother pushed a stroller, smiling. For a moment, I remembered when Celeste was that small, before everything became about money and expectations, before love turned into a transaction. When I reached my driveway, I paused, staring at the old mailbox with Brennan painted in faded letters. The name felt meaningful again. Inside, I opened my laptop and saw the email. Property listed successfully. Those 3 words filled me with a quiet, satisfying warmth. But I wasn't done. I opened a new browser tab and searched. Moving Services Cedar Falls, Iowa. Most were big corporate names. I scrolled past them until I found one that sounded right. Brent's Reliable Moving, family-owned, 12 years in business. I called the number. Brent's Moving, a gruff voice answered. I need help moving some things tomorrow, I said. It's urgent. What kind of schedule? Morning. Whole house. From where to where? I gave him Celeste's Oak Avenue address. Everything needs to go into storage. Got a storage unit set up? He asked. Not yet. I can recommend Safekeep Storage on Pine Street. Good people. Within minutes, I was on a 3-way call with Iris from Safekeep, arranging the details. For a full house, you'll need a 10 by 20 unit, she said. First month up front, $135. I'll take it. Brent came back on the line. We'll be there at 8:15 a.m. 2 guys in a truck. You said the family's away? Yes. I like everything finished before they get back. Got it. Family matter, he said knowingly. Been through it myself. We'll be quick and respectful. Thank you. When the call ended, I sat back, a quiet satisfaction spreading through me. For the first time in years, I wasn't being used. I was taking back my life, one calm, deliberate action at a time. After finishing the calls and paying for the storage unit online, I cooked dinner with an appetite I hadn't felt in days. For once, the food actually tasted good, like victory simmered in quiet resolve. I set my alarm for 6:30 a.m., earlier than my usual retirement routine, and laid out my work clothes. Old jeans and the same worn boots I'd used back in my contractor days, before I became the man who financed everyone else's dreams instead of chasing his own. That night, I watched the evening news with a calm, focused mind. The weather forecast called for clear skies, perfect for what tomorrow would bring. Before bed, I plugged in my phone, placing it beside a glass of water on the nightstand. Then, while brushing my teeth, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. A man I hadn't seen in years. A man ready to act. A man who had finally stopped asking for permission to control his own life. I arrived at the Oak Avenue house at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, as always. The home looked different now, not as my daughter's place, but as a property that needed to be emptied. Brent's moving truck was already there, engine idling, white steam curling into the cool morning air. Brent climbed out of the cab, a solid man in his 50s with the quiet, no-nonsense presence of someone who'd handled more family drama than he cared to count. His 2 younger crew members were already unloading equipment with smooth efficiency. Mr. Brennan, Brent greeted, shaking my hand with a firm grip. Ready to start? I nodded and unlocked the front door with my spare key. The house greeted us with hollow silence. Fitting, somehow. We walked through each room together as Brent evaluated the furniture and belongings with a practiced eye. This'll take about 3, maybe 4 hours, he said, jotting notes on his clipboard. I pointed out what belonged to Celeste and Darien, which, truthfully, meant everything. The expensive sectional I'd bought them last Christmas. Darien's sleek home office and gaming setup. Celeste's closets, overflowing with designer clothes and handbags. The crew started immediately, wrapping, labeling, and stacking boxes with impressive precision. I insisted on helping, even after Brent warned me about insurance policies. I'm not that old, I told him, earning a grin from one of the younger movers. Soon I was carrying boxes marked Celeste books and Darien sports gear, feeling an unexpected satisfaction as their possessions disappeared piece by piece. In their bedroom closet, I found their wedding photo albums. Flipping through, I noticed I was barely in any of the pictures, maybe 2 standing awkwardly at the edges while Darien's family filled the frames. I closed the album and handed it off without a word. Room after room, we cleared out expensive things I'd long forgotten buying: electronics, jewelry, furniture. Even the leather dining set, I'd gifted them for their first anniversary. My back began to ache, but I kept going, driven by a purpose stronger than pain. In what was once meant to be a nursery, I found unopened baby furniture boxes, ghosts of a future that never happened. For a brief second, guilt crept in. Was I being too harsh? Then I found Darien's credit card statements, luxury purchases, vacations, and dining while they'd cried, struggling to me. The guilt vanished instantly. You okay, Mr. Brennan? Brent asked when he noticed me pause. Just remembering things, I said quietly. Let's keep going. By 11:45 a.m., the house was empty. The rooms echoed differently now, bare, sunlit, and honest. I locked up and followed the moving truck to safekeep storage, where I watched their belongings disappear into Unit 52C. I paid Brent in cash and added a generous tip. I hope things work out for you, Mr. Brennan, he said sincerely. They already are, I replied. Driving home, my phone buzzed in the cup holder with notifications. I ignored it until I parked in my garage. Inside, I finally checked the screen, Facebook alerts. Celeste had posted multiple furious updates. Some people have no respect for family privacy. Her friends flooded the comments with sympathy, while she played the perfect victim. I closed the app without replying and called Kai Nakamura instead. "Fletcher, great timing," Kai said, excitement in his voice. "We have a serious buyer, cash offer, came in fast. Young couple, just moved here for new jobs. They love the place." He paused dramatically before adding, "Offers $218,000, a bit higher than we expected." That number hit perfectly. "When do they want to close?" I asked. "That's the thing," Kai said. "They want to close right away. They could move in this weekend." I glanced at my calendar. "Thursday." "Do it," I said. "Make it happen." Friday morning, I was at the title office signing the paperwork with deliberate care. The buyers, Caspian and Nora Mercer, were kind, optimistic early 30s. The kind of couple Celeste and Darien once pretended to be. "We love what you did with the yard," Nora said during the final walkthrough. I didn't mention it wasn't my yard work, I thought, but only smiled. "It's perfect," Caspian added. "We can move in tomorrow." A notification popped up on my phone, the bank transfer. After fees, $192,000 profit. My fatherly gift had just become a sound investment. Saturday morning, I drove by one last time. A U-Haul sat in the driveway. Caspian and Nora were outside. She was planting flowers. He was assembling a swing set. A baby crib waited by the door. A new beginning for them. And the end of something for me. My phone rang. An international number. Right on cue. I answered just as a taxi pulled up to the house. Celeste stepped out first, exhausted from travel, but instantly alert at the sight of the movers and the strange couple standing on her front lawn. Darien followed, paying the driver, confusion quickly morphing into panic. "Hey, excuse me," Darien called, striding toward Nora. "What are you people doing in our house?" Nora looked up, startled but polite. "Your house." Caspian appeared in the doorway, holding paperwork. "I think there's been some misunderstanding." I stepped out of my car and walked toward them calmly, the envelope I'd prepared already in hand. Celeste spotted me, and her expression changed in seconds. Confusion, realization, rage. "Dad, what the hell is going on? Why are these people moving into our house?" Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Caspian and Nora exchanged uneasy glances, decent people caught in the middle of someone else's storm. Nora still gripped her gardening trowel, just in case. Darien turned his anger toward Caspian. "I don't know who you think you are, but you need to get out of here. Now." Caspian raised his papers calmly. "We closed yesterday. I have the deed right here." "That's impossible. This is our home," Celeste shouted. Nora's voice was soft but firm. "Maybe we should call the police." I stepped forward then, letting my voice carry the same steady authority I'd used years ago managing construction crews. "That won't be necessary." Celeste's tone snapped toward me, demanding, commanding. "Dad, fix this. Right now." I looked at Caspian and Nora first. "I'm truly sorry for this confusion," I said gently. "Please go ahead and keep moving in. Everything is in order." Then I turned to Celeste and Darien. My tone stayed even, almost detached. "The house was sold," I said, "because it belonged to me, not you." Darien's face flushed deep red. "What do you mean it belonged to you? That doesn't make any sense." "It's simple," I replied. "The deed was never transferred to your names. You just assumed it was." Celeste's voice rose to that glass-shattering pitch I'd grown so used to. "You can't just sell our home out from under us like that." "I can sell my property," I said quietly, which is exactly what I did. Darien's jaw clenched. "This is theft. We'll sue you for everything you're worth." I met his glare without flinching. "Then I suppose I'll see you in court." And with that, I turned and walked away, leaving behind their outrage, their entitlement, and every ounce of guilt they'd ever made me feel. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one who lost something that day. They did. Darien was nearly shouting now, his face flushed with rage. "With what money are you planning to sue me?" I asked calmly. "Last I checked, your credit cards were getting declined while you were living it up in Rome." Caspian leaned toward Nora and whispered something. She nodded, and together they started walking toward their front door. Their front door now, not Celeste and Darien's. Please, just go inside and don't worry about this, I told them gently. This situation doesn't concern you. Celeste's voice cracked with desperation, that same tone she used as a child whenever she didn't get her way. Where are we supposed to live now? Where did you put all of our things? I reached in my jacket and handed her the envelope I'd been carrying. Darien snatched it from my hand and ripped it open, his fingers trembling with fury. He read aloud, Safekeep Storage Facility, Unit 52C, Pine Street location. Storage. Celeste repeated, her voice breaking. You put our entire lives in a storage unit? I made sure everything was packed carefully and stored safely, I said evenly. The first month's rent is already paid. Darien crushed the paper in his fist like it was worthless. This is insane. You can't just do this to your own family. I looked him straight in the eye. Real family doesn't exclude their father from family vacations or call him needy. That's completely different, and you know it. Celeste snapped. Is it really? I asked quietly. Darien took a step closer, trying to intimidate me with his size, but I didn't move. We'll fight this in court, he growled. We'll challenge everything you've done. The sale is illegal. The sale is perfectly legal, I said calmly. The property was mine from the beginning. Celeste's tone shifted to that familiar manipulative softness she used whenever she wanted something. How could you do something this cruel to your own daughter? I studied her face, the daughter I'd loved, the woman who'd learned to use guilt as a weapon. How could you do what you did to your own father? I asked quietly. At that moment, Nora came out of the house, concern etched across her face. Is everything all right out here? Everything's fine, I assured her with a polite smile. Enjoy your beautiful new home. Celeste and Darien stood frozen on the sidewalk, still clutching their designer luggage, looking like lost travelers who had wandered into the wrong story. I turned and walked to my car, my old work boots echoing against the pavement, each step steady, deliberate. This isn't over, old man. Darien shouted after me. I got into my car, started the engine, and my classical music picked up right where it had left off. Yes, I murmured to myself. It absolutely is. 3 months later, I was at my kitchen table, reading the morning paper with a fresh cup of coffee when the doorbell rang. A process server stood on my porch holding legal documents, Celeste and Darien's lawsuit against me. I signed the papers calmly. I wasn't even surprised. That same afternoon, I received the court's decision, lawsuit dismissed. The judge had ruled that the property was legally mine to sell. His written opinion was blunt and unsympathetic toward their claims. Celeste and Darien were ordered to pay their own attorney fees, which I suspected would sting more than the ruling itself. My lawyer called soon after. Clean victory, Fletcher, he said cheerfully. They don't have a leg to stand on. A few days later, the local paper ran a short article. Family property dispute resolved. I filed all the documents neatly into a folder labeled Legal Victory and went about my day. The small-town gossip mill had been running overtime. At the coffee shop, I overheard whispers. I always thought that son-in-law was an entitled brat. Fletcher Brennan worked hard all his life. He didn't deserve what they did to him. Of course, there were a few who muttered, families should stick together no matter what. But I'd finally learned not to let other people's opinions weigh me down. When I ran into Kai Nakamura at the hardware store, he asked, "How are you holding up after everything?" I smiled. Better than I ever thought I would. That same afternoon, I stopped by a local pet store I'd been eyeing for months. A 3-year-old golden retriever named Ranger needed a new home. His family was moving overseas. He's great with people, the clerk said. Loves car rides. I crouched down, and Ranger came straight to me, tail wagging like he already knew we belonged together. The bond was instant. An hour later, he was riding shotgun in my car, head out the window, ears flapping in the wind. That night, he slept beside my bed. For the first time in months, neither of us was alone. Later, I found myself looking at travel trailers online, best RVs for senior travelers. A few days later, I was test driving a 28-foot Airstream, the perfect size for one man and his loyal dog. I traded in my second car and used some savings to buy it outright. Ranger adapted immediately to the new life. We mapped our first trip, national parks, quiet towns, all the places I postponed visiting for family responsibilities. When we finally left Cedar Falls, I locked the house, arranged mail forwarding, and asked neighbors to check in. Ranger's tail wagged nonstop as we hit the open road. Driving through town one last time, I passed Oak Avenue. Caspian and Nora's kids were playing in the yard. Laughter echoed through the air, the kind that house had been missing for years. The highway sign ahead read, Montana, 850 miles. Ranger had his head out the window, wind in his fur. My hand was steady on the wheel. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. That evening, we stopped at a scenic overlook in Montana. I set up a folding chair as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in gold and violet. Ranger lay beside me, content and loyal. For the first time in a long time, I was exactly where I was meant to be. To hear the next story, click the box on the left, and, as always, thank you for watching.